Super Rugby quarterfinal number one, folks, is the Blues up against the Waratahs. We are going to go through some lineups, predictions, stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this one may be going to go. The Blues, my Blues, will be looking to do a repeat of when these sides met in round 9 when it was a pretty comfortable Blues win. 55-21 in that game. Caleb Clark ran riot. I think Mark Telea scored. He's been scoring a lot of tries. Riccitelli scored. So, yeah, Blues at Eden Park will be looking to repeat that one and kind of just do what happened in Super Rugby Pacific last year with all the home teams winning the quarterfinals with Waratahs. We'll be looking to throw a spanner in the works, man. It's knockout footy. What can you say? Now is the time to put in the best performance of the season because they certainly didn't do it last week when they lost to Moana Pacifica at home, the only side to lose to Moana Pacifica. For the Blues, they have kept things relatively stable, but got a couple of guns back, but also a couple of guys absent. Tuungafasi, Riccitelli, Laulala, that's your front row. Pretty strong-looking front row, although Ofa Tuungafasi is one of the most penalised players in the competition. I think he's third overall, so he'll need to kind of keep it clean at scrum time. Tom Robinson and James Tucker are in the second row with Patrick Tupulotu having an arm injury and being out for the season. Tom Robinson has to shift to lock, but he's been there and done that before. Akira, Ioane, Dalton, Papali'i, and Hoskins, Sotutu, that's the back row. So Akira is up from the bench. Dalton continues on, although he shifts from 8 to 7, more familiar 7 jersey. He's captain, and then Hoskins back into 23 at number 8. I like the look of that back row, man. Dalton's our top tackler, so he'll need to kind of battle it out with Michael Hooper when they're on defence. But, I mean, in that 55-21 game, the Blues had a lot of ball. A lot of clean breaks, a lot of run meters and whatnot. So defending kind of wasn't the order of the day. But, yeah, I think the Blues probably will expect a closer game than that this time. Finlay, Christie and Beauden Barrett 9 and 10. So Bodie's back in the 23. Bryce Heem is also back in the 23 in the 12 jersey after missing out late last week. He had to withdraw. Rieko is still there at 13, and he's had the most carries, I think, of anybody when starting at outside centre this year in Super Rugby. AJ Lamb's there on the left wing, up from the bench. He replaces Caleb Clark, who was out with an injured leg. The Waratahs will be pretty happy with that after the kind of numbers that Caleb clocked up in that round 9 game. But the danger man you got to think is Mark Telea. Goodness gracious me. First equal for tries with 11. And 86 defenders beaten. For context, the next best guy for defenders beaten has 72. It's not even close. Mark Telea has been absolutely phenomenal on attack. And Zarn Sullivan with that big boot of his is there at fullback. Bench-wise, we've got Eklund, Renata. Suafoa comes into the 23. Segner drops to the bench. Nock is still there as the backup halfback. And then Plummer and Perofeta drop to the bench after starting last week. One absentee is obviously Roger Tuivasa-Sheck with Heem being back fit. And Plummer dropping to the bench. There is no spot for RTS in this one. For the Tars, they have likewise kept things as stable as they can, but they are also missing a couple of their kind of key players. The front row is Faulkner, Porecki, and Holtz. That's a totally different front row from the one that started last week. Porecki's back at the 23. Likewise is Faulkner, and Holtz is having to get a start. Harry Johnson-Holmes is one of you guys out injured, sadly, and he's like one of the... He's also really highly penalised, but he makes a ton of tackles, and he scrummages, so yeah, it's a big name for the Waratahs to be missing him, not just because he's kind of double-barreled. Holloway and Hannigan, that's your lock and duo. Holloway's a great guy to have back for the Tars. He's got the most lineouts won of anybody in Super Rugby this year, and the most lineout steals. So the Waratahs are going to have to get their set piece right, and he's a key man to have back. Hannigan switches to the second row for this one. Swinton, Hooper, and Gleeson. That's your back row. Swinton and Hooper continue on. Gleeson is up from the bench. We know he's a bit of a threat at the back of that scrum. But, I mean, Michael Hooper, 10 turnovers, one of your top guys in Super Rugby. Most tackles of any Waratahs player, one of the top guys in Super Rugby. Like, there's been times when he's carried the Waratahs, throughout his career. He'll be hoping for a little bit of support at Eden Park this week. Goddard and Donaldson is 9 and 10. Remember, Jake Gordon is recovering from concussion, so he's unavailable, and he'll be a big loss. He's had like 5 try assists and the most passes of anybody in Super Rugby this year. So, yeah, big shoes for Goddard to fill. 12 and 13 is Foketi and Walton. So Foketi's back in after missing last week. I think he's just recently re-signed with the Waratahs, so that's good news for Aussie Rugby. Parise is on the right wing, Peach on the left wing, and then Nawaqanitawase is there at fullback. He is one of their more dangerous guys in the Waratahs backline with 8 tries. He's had the most defenders beaten of any Tar, although it's only 43 compared to like Telea's 86. but still, fullback's not really his main position. It's usually on that right wing. So, yeah, it's a big call to put him at fullback again for another week, but that's the way they're lining up. The bench has seen a couple of changes with Teddy Wilson back in the squad. Vailanu was also back in the squad. Talani Seals dropped to the bench. Ed Meadows here on the bench. Charlie Gamble on the bench. A lot of tackling in him. But, yeah, we will see how the Tars go. Stats-wise for the teams, the Blues have got some beautiful numbers. And as I said, some of them would have been clocked up in that round 9 game. Most clean breaks of any team in Super Rugby is the Blues. The Waratahs, in contrast, are 11th out of 12 teams. Defenders beaten the Blues are 4th. The Waratahs are dead last. So the Waratahs, in just terms of those kind of pure attacking numbers, not looking that flash, but they do have a better line-out than the Blues, although only kind of slightly better, just over 1% better, 87.6 to 86.4. And the Blues, if they needed any other kind of leg up, they got an extra day's rest. Because remember, the Blues played last Friday against the Highlanders, whereas the Waratahs played on Saturday. They're now playing on a Friday, so it's a shorter turnaround for them. And yeah, form-wise, the Blues having won their last 3 and their end of the season results being pretty solid, are kind of maybe in a bit of better form than the Waratahs, who lost their last 2, including that disappointing one against Moana Pacifica. Predictions-wise, it's the Blues by 18, according to the bookies, and by 18, according to the Rugby Forecast algorithm. So this one not predicted to be particularly close. The Blues are supposed to kind of do this one in a bit of a canter. Ben O'Keefe is the ref, 7:35 kickoff, which is half an hour later than many of the games this year, often at 7:05, but yeah, this is Friday at Eden Park. If you guys are in the States, you can watch it on Flow Rugby. This, the Curry Cup, Top 14, all the other kind of Super Rugby knockout games. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. Do you see the Waratahs potentially getting up for this one, or are you with the algorithm and the bookies that this one should be the Blues relatively easily? You guys let us know your thoughts, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.